Welcome to Building While Flying, a Sasha Group podcast where we interview business leaders about how they tackle challenges, stay resilient, and navigate ever-changing skies.
So Alice, welcome. So happy to have you here.
Thank you. So happy to be here.
So generally speaking, when I meet people, I like to ask them what it is we should know about them or what it is I should know about them. I want to change it up a little bit given like who our audience is for Building While Flying. So I want you to tell us what we should know about you that'll give us context into the entrepreneurial journey that you've undertaken. And obviously like include in that like the origin story for Perfected.
Of course. So I actually started Perfected out of a need to solve a problem for myself. So I'm a size 2 and a 32 double D naturally. I started my career in investment banking and we were required to wear button downs and suit jackets. And I could never find clothes to fit my body.
Yeah.
So buttons would always pop open. What fits my shoulders would pull across my chest. Jackets won't even close across my chest.
Mm-hmm.
So if I size up, then it's baggy everywhere else. I would have to pay more money to either get it tailored or settle with looking frumpy and feel insecure and look less professional. So I decided to do something about it. Well, okay, before I went there, I transitioned my career into fashion. And now I've been in the fashion industry for over 2 decades. And even being in fashion, I couldn't find clothes that fit me. The cute puffy sleeve styles look overwhelming. So with big shoulders and a big chest, I look like a football player and I don't feel confident. So I said to myself, I need to do something about this. Yeah. And when I looked into it, I realized that over 20 million women fall into this demographic. So demographic meaning size double D and up, cup, chest size that fit between 0 to size 14. So small to mid frame.
Yep. There's so much in there that I want to like dig into. So first, I feel it. You saw me nodding my head, right? Like I feel it personally. Like I've been in the environments where, you are required to wear a certain type of uniform. I went to business school. In order to just attend events, you had to attend. And fashion has such an impact on how you feel in a room. Right? It's not just about a fashion sense. And so you are absolutely addressing a need for yourself, but it's one that I know other women feel like I have felt that. There are 2 routes you could have gone, right? Because I feel you had all of these connections in the business world. So like talk about that. Talk about what got you to this point. So Alice pre-Perfected, right? Like what were the things you learned? How did you land in fashion? Because that's not where you started. So talk a little bit about that.
I mean, I always loved fashion. I truly believe that when you look good, you feel good. And I wanted to empower women to feel their best. And whether it's looking confident, feeling confident. So I went into fashion. I always loved fashion. I didn't know that there was money in fashion. My parents are from Korea, immigrant Koreans, and they only knew doctor, lawyer, finance. So fashion was even out of the realm, but because they saw how hard I worked in investment banking, all the hours, and they said, no, there has to be more to life and we want you to be happy.
I love that.
So I started from the bottom again. After my investment banking years, I started as an assistant buyer, knowing that I needed to get my foot in the door into fashion. And then I just kept working my way up. So what drives me is product. I love product. I love merchandise. I like choosing products, but the analytical side of me, numbers. So as a buyer, you have to know your numbers, meet your margins, what's selling, what's not. Seasonal markdown. So I started there and then just my positions ended up growing. So I was in charge of merchandising. So that position is between the designer and the sales team. So what customers want versus the designers. And there has to be a hybrid because designers produce beautiful things. But if it doesn't sell, then it's not profitable for the company, as well as licensing. So I've worked for brands like Prada, Diane von Furstenberg, and for DVF, shoes wasn't her forte. So we have a licensed partner, home, fragrance, jewelry. So I was in charge of that as well.
So I would imagine you built quite a tremendous network in the fashion industry. And when the idea for Perfected came to you, that you had two options. One would have been to pitch it to an existing brand to say, here's an opportunity, like you should run with this. I can help you with this. Or to do it on your own, and you chose to do it on your own. Was that like your instinct from the very beginning?
No, not at all. So being in the industry for so long, I just knew how capital intensive it would be. So my dream was to have my own brand, but I shied away from it because of how capital intensive it would be. I pitched my idea, quite frankly, to a few brands.
Okay.
Some of them didn't think the market was big enough for them, so it was an afterthought, and others took the idea.
Oh, wow.
I know.
I don't think that's something we had talked about before.
No, it's heartbreaking. I try not to always talk about it, but I think it's important for everyone. Protect your idea, but there's only so much. So I struggled with, do I share this market opportunity that I see, or do I hold it and do nothing and get nowhere? So I said to myself, I'm so sure about this. There's a huge market. You being a customer also, and the target demographic, there's so many other women that we need to service. That's where I kept my eye on the prize, and how do I help others if I'm feeling this way? And I said, if not me, someone else is going to do it. And some started. So I said, I'm going to be hyper focused and do it myself.
I love that, right? Because I think that could have gone the other way. You could have said, well, somebody's already doing it, then my dream is gone. I'm not going to continue it. But you were like, no, this is my dream. I'm going to bring it to life the way that I see. And in full transparency, I'm not aware of other brands doing what you're doing. So kudos to you, because I know your story and I'm now familiar with Perfected. And I don't know who your competitors are. So we can definitely talk about that some more. You touched upon also having some quant leanings, right? And we've talked about data. So talk about how data played into, you've talked about the market size and you were aware of the market size, but we've also talked about return rates. And so that comes into play with a lot of the conversations you're having as you grow the brand. So talk about data and the role it plays day to day for you.
Oh, absolutely. So for any budding entrepreneur, I think this is helpful too. So always try to find as much data as possible. So before I even dug into how many women fall into this demographic, I started talking to my friends and dinner conversations, just telling them about my struggle, and people would raise their hand and say, I'm in that bucket too.
Yeah.
I mean, even today, so many women fall into this. So, and I had the privilege of having worked in fashion, and specifically e-commerce and stores. So I knew what the return rates are. E-commerce return rates are over 40%.
So crazy. When you told me that number, I couldn't believe it.
Oh, crazy. And I'm being conservative, because if you're just a DTC brand, direct to consumer, and only sell online, that number can even go higher.
Right. Because 40% isn't a reflection of satisfaction. It's just a reflection of the people who got motivated and went and returned it. You've then got to have a percentage of folks who never returned the item, but are still dissatisfied with it.
That's right. That's right. But it's all about fit. And if your return rate is high, there are a couple of reasons. Either it's not fitting properly, the description is not the way it should be. There's an issue clearly that you need to look into. Our return rates are single digits.
Kudos to you. Really phenomenal stat. And I've told Alice this before, she needs to tell this story and yell it from the rooftops, but you are starting to carve out such a powerful story behind the brand.
Thank you so much.
You are incredibly focused in what you're doing. So already you've been asked by folks who are really happy with what you're already doing, hey, can you also do X, Y, and Z? And you have talked about how not yet, right? Hey, in the meantime, you can check out this brand or this other brand. So talk to us about why you feel that focus is really important.
I think being hyper focused in the beginning is super important, because you don't want your message to get lost.
Yeah.
I don't believe that you can be something for everybody, and that's when it gets hairy. But we're hyper focused on size 0 to 14. Why? Because that market is underserved. No one, to your point, is looking at that demographic yet. Right now, so a big request, quite honestly, is plus size, but big request means few requests
Right.
because we're not as well known. We're still a budding brand. But the plus size market is already being serviced. There are plus size exclusive brands, sections of department stores. We completely agree. I completely agree that they're still underserved, but the market that I'm targeting has not been touched yet.
Amazing. When I gave the introduction to PerfectDD, I mentioned that you're a sustainable brand. Talk about that and why that was important to you.
There's just so much waste in the world. I didn't want to add to the waste. Clearly, there's a need for this product for these women. And how can we do it sustainably, minimizing waste? So anything from using the specific materials like organic cotton, which uses less water, non-toxic dyes, all the way to the styles themselves. They're versatile. We use the highest quality cotton, so Pima or Supima. So if you think of a cotton ball, it's the center. So it's the longest fibers and the thickest fibers. So it withstands more washes. And our styles are timeless. So my V-neck that I'm wearing here, I can wear to the gym with sweatpants if I wanted to. Everything is machine washable. Because of the pretty sleeve details, I can wear with leather pants to wear to work.
Right.
I can dress it up. I could wear a skirt and wear it for date night. So all of our pieces are versatile. We have a capsule collection of only 9 styles, but we think less is more. We're not chasing every single trend. A 12-year-old can wear this, but so can a 65-year-old.
It's amazing.
And it's timeless. So it's not, a specific bold color or style. It won't ever go out of style.
So it's clearly a value choice, but it has significant financial implications because I can't imagine that it is inexpensive to choose to be a sustainable brand. So what's your build there, right? Because you're in the early stages of your business. It is a decision that could have saved you money in the process, but tell us about that longer term vision.
I mean, this is where my heart is. So we want to remain sustainable. It is more expensive, but I think that's the quality that you pay for. It's not disposable.
Love that. You mentioned that you're the daughter of Korean immigrants. Another point of connection for us, we're New York City kids, right? We're the daughters of immigrants. Does that play a role into who you are as a person and who you now are as an entrepreneur?
Oh, absolutely. I want to show my parents, and oh my gosh, I could cry, live the American dream for them. So the opportunities that my parents have given me, and I definitely know that I'm privileged through all of this, the education, the networks that I was able to build because of my career path. So blessed. But yes, my heart and soul is into this. And a big part of PerfectDD is to be the voice of the underserved. So we're mission driven, and I have collaboration supporting Stop Asian Hate, breast cancer awareness, BLM. So we donate proceeds, so I have specific capsules to support specific organizations, but also a pot of proceeds where we donate 1% to various organizations.
It's so incredible, right, to live out your values as a brand, but it's also, I think, essential in the reality of what we're living today. We have so many options, right? Even in industry like yours or in a niche like you've created that was underserved, people still have choices to make. And I think a brand living out its values is how we make those choices as consumers. So I think it's incredible that you're living them out. You're not just saying these are the things we do, but that you are supporting it financially, even at these early stages of the business. So amazing.
Thank you.
So Alice, in terms of living out your values, right, in the actions, do you feel like that's a sacrifice, right? Like you are talking about charitable contributions, like taking from the revenue that is so precious at these early stages of your business and really investing that in other places. But do you feel like that's paid off in other ways?
I feel like my passion has opened doors. So, for example, actress Lindsay Price found my brand on Instagram randomly. We became friends and said, it was at the height of COVID and when a lot of Asian violence was happening.
Okay.
So we got together and said, what can we do to help society? And that's really part of my mission too, because it's great to make money, but what do we do with it? We can use capitalism for good.
Right.
So she and I came up with a hashtag Speak Up, Speak Out campaign, and where we donate 100% of the proceeds to a New York City organization called Heart of Dinner, where they served, since COVID started, they've served over 90,000 meals.
That's incredible.
To elderly Asian, to Asian elders at risk. So because COVID hits elderly harder. And secondly, because of the violence that was going on, they're scared to go outside. So it's food insecurity. So hand delivering meals to Asian elderly. It's near and dear to my heart because imagining my parents be those elders in need just breaks my heart. So I found them on the Ellen DeGeneres show and contacted them, like rapidly contacted me, email, phone, Instagram, finally got a hold of them and said, we want to help. How can we help? And that's how we launched our AAPI campaign.
You'd be surprised how many people wouldn't send that email or that DM on Instagram because they think there won't be a response. But so many times there will be a response on the other side. The other thing I was going to say is that relationship that you formed with Lindsay, I would put my money on the fact that if you tried to find an influencer to work with for the brand, you wouldn't have that same kind of result, right? The fact that you had a story, that you were doing things that she personally connected with that prompted her to reach out to you is so much more powerful than anything you could have purchased, right? Any relationship you could have purchased. So I think that's a phenomenal example for our listeners.
Thank you.
So Alice, I have one last question for you, and I might sneak in another build based on what your response to this is. But you have really created a category, right? Like you've almost created a voice for the voiceless in the fashion category. There is, however, a lot of stigma and for some like shame around the conversation around breast size, right? Bra cup size. So talk about how you've navigated that and how that's resulted in what PerfectDD is.
We talk about the uncomfortable. We come as our authentic selves and we talk about our insecurities of being boob shamed, the over sexualizing of big boobs, and we address it head on. And I think that when you start the conversation is when we start evoking change. So it's really important that we bring attention to it. Why should boobs be taboo? It's a body part that every female has.
Yep.
So that's the conversation that we're trying to change from over-sexualizing and body shaming to that of body positivity and acceptance.
And you had mentioned in a previous conversation, like you don't actually hire models.
No. So we were so fortunate. All of our quote unquote models are our customers and none of the photos are Photoshopped. So they're raw and real as they are.
As you are, Alice.
Thank you.
This was such a fun conversation. I think there's a lot for our audience to take away. So thank you so much for being a guest.
Thank you for having me.